This is Arica, northern Chile, Drake's last port of call. Peru is only about 12 miles further north. He arrived here on the evening of the 6th of February. It would have been windy, the sun would have been setting, and he left the following morning on the 7th of February 1579. In the harbour, Drake was able to rifle 2 ships and unload 37 bars of silver and near 300 jars of wine. He commandeered the smaller vessels in the harbour to ferry himself with 60 men to lead an assault on the town of 20 houses. All the inhabitants had been summoned and armed, and they were augmented by a troop of horse. When Drake saw this reception on the shoreline, he aborted the raid, much to his frustration, because he did intend arriving here with Elizabeth and the Marigold, but both vessels were absent permanently because one had sunk south of the continent of South America and one had gone home. In the morning, it would have been a cloudy day like this, during which time Drake freed 3 prisoners and 3 Indians. One of the ships that Drake captured somehow caught on fire. The Spanish condemned Drake for this, but the English accounts say it was an accident. Drake left the driest town in the world. It hardly ever rains here, maybe a big storm once in 100 years, or a trickle of rain now and then, but it's inconsequential. It's an oasis which the English accounts recognized and said it was the most fertile, pleasant looking valley they'd seen in this part of the world, being the northern section of Chile where it's desert. Drake was ahead of Spanish intelligence. No one knew he was coming, but from here on, messengers by horse would gallop along the coastline and warn all the towns in Peru that this English interloper, this menacing threat, was about to pounce upon their possessions. And in Chile, Drake arrived too late because a ship was being unloaded because they'd heard of Drake's presence. All Drake saw was the wet water line of the ship and the llamas carrying all the silver going up into the mountains inland. But back to Arica. This is a Drake place which is completely obliterated by modernity. Modernity has struck. The harbour is built on reclaimed land. It is an artificial harbour. I'm standing 110 metres high up on El Morro, the headland, which is a monumental, beautiful feature for the town of Arica to present on postcards and its logo for publicity. But you can reckon that the main road in the middle of the camera represented the shoreline, and everything to the left of it is reclaimed land. So where you see the first crane, that's where the Golden Hind would have come into the harbour and rifled all the shipping in the harbour. In 2010, I presented my published credentials to Senor Luis Villalobos, the head of security. He gave me a hard hat and he drove me out to the end of the harbour where the Golden Hind would have been anchored, and I was able to photograph in the morning to capture the light of Drake leaving. One good reason for saying this road is the extent of the shoreline in Drake's day, because if you look very closely, there's a church there with netting and scaffolding on it, just to the right of the yellow building. There's always been a church on that site, so the church would have been overlooking the lower ground of the town. So if we pan the camera from the church, which is to the right of the picture, go down into the town, there's where you would have had the 20 houses just before the main road there. and left the main road would have been the harbour. So this is a drake town where you have to reconstruct, or I should say deconstruct modernity to convert it into history. Nonetheless, from this viewpoint, I can spend an hour or two here just contemplating the activity that Drake carried out overnight into the early hours of the morning. He left richer, but he knew there were more spoils ashore. This is the end of the Drake video session from Chile. I've selected the most dramatic and contrasting geographically locations to tell the Drake story. I've not been to all the Drake's places. Some of them, like Cabo Paquica, Drake pulls there to dispatch an Indian in his canoe to release him after he'd been helpful to Francis Drake. He also did the same at Quintero, north of Valparaiso. Valparaiso is another port that Drake raided. It's the first one that he raided to obtain treasure in central Chile, that is, but I haven't gone there, not at the time. I've been to other places, but Arica will serve to document that type of story, comparing them to Valparaiso. This is in Drake's wake, the final location in Chile.